Well, thank you. It's been a couple of days since I've been able to talk to you and bring you up to speed with what we know in regards to the tragic death of John McCarthy. What I can tell you is that the boys are back. They've spent nearly 40 hours returning home, and all I can say is they're with their families and with our playing group, and quite devastated and shocked by the circumstances, and there's a bit of work to do to restore them to a better frame of mind, but at least they're home, and we'd like to thank Virgin Airlines for making that trip as painless as possible. It was a wonderful gesture on their behalf. At 9:30 this morning, Adelaide time, you would have there was a press conference in the United States involving Peter Rode, our General Manager of Football, and Stuart Bailey, who was a member of the Victorian Police Force. At this press conference, it was made clear, or as clear as we can be at this stage, that every indication at this stage is that the death of John was in fact a tragic accident. They went to into some detail in regards to the last moments of John entering the Flamingo Casino, taking a lift up a couple of floors, finding his way onto looked like a fire escape, I think, and out onto a mezzanine roof. We can only speculate really as to why he wasn't able to get back off the roof, but it appeared that he felt as if he couldn't find his way back, and attempted to scale across to a palm tree where he fell, and was fatally injured. That's the report that's coming from the US police and the coroner's office over there. That report won't be finalised and released for another 30 days, but they are suggesting that's going to be the findings. I also wanted to spend some time this afternoon. Just this story is clearly generating enormous public interest, understandably, and because we haven't been able to speak to the guys involved, and there's been a great distance between us, there have been some gaps. I just wanted to talk a little bit more about the lead up to John's accident. I've spoken to the boys within the last hour, and they've been able to explain to me how it came to be that John was on his own. So if you can imagine 10 lads or 11 lads turning up in Vegas, for many of them it was their first time. They check into a hotel. The rooms weren't ready, so they put all their bags into one room. They head out. They come across a club which has got thousands of people in it. It blew their minds, apparently. Spending an hour in a queue trying to get in. Some of them get in, some of them don't. Some of them have to go back to the back of the queue, finally find their way in. Some are in one section of the casino, some are in another. They spend the night in small groups, and then throughout the course of the evening, at this stage it's late evening, some of them start to peel off and go to bed. Others stay at the casino, and it would appear at this point that John left the casino. Now, whether he was disoriented or I don't know the reasons, but he headed towards the Flamingo Casino and found his way there. Now, the phone call, which is also of significant interest to his girlfriend Danny, occurred quite late in the morning, and And I know there's been a lot of speculation as to what was said. All I can say to you is that I've spoken to Danny about it, and while she was concerned that he was on his own and that he seemed a little disorientated and perhaps lost, he probably was, she was comfortable with the call. She felt as if it went okay. I think there was a I'm missing you or whatever sort of phone call, but it is a private matter between them, and I don't know much more than that, other than the overall sense of it was it was okay. She was, however, concerned enough, because he was on his own, to make contact with one of our other players, and to sort of try and get him back into the group. She did that. She made contact, and that player made contact with John, who suggested that he was on his way back to the hotel. And so at that point, the group felt as if, okay, he's okay and he's coming back. Now, we would suggest that the accident happened soon thereafter. It's a tragic loss for us all, as we've been saying. We all understand that. The players are suffering, as are the families. And I guess all we can ask for at this stage is some privacy. I'll be the spokesperson for this issue from here on in, and I would really like to protect the players at this stage from having to speak about it. There's some grief counselling that's going on, and it's going to take a little while to, as I said, to restore them to a better frame of mind, and we'd like to think that would be possible. Thank you. What's the overriding feeling that they're having? Are they blaming themselves? Yeah, look, I think that is it. They're reflecting on, is there more that we could have done? How did it come to be? You know, I've explained the circumstances. Young blokes in a different country, their phones weren't working. You know, some of them were booked in, some of them weren't. It was that first day of a big trip, and I think that they're just really regretting the fact that somehow that one of the pack broke away. So are they quite fragile at this point? Yeah. I would say that that's right. Yeah.
Has suicide been ruled out?
It certainly it has been ruled out to the best of my knowledge by the coroner, based on the investigation of John's body and the circumstances, and the tone of the conversations that were had in the immediate sort of period before that.
Do you know if there was anyone who was trying to help John get down below on the ground?
I haven't heard anything about that. No, I don't. That hasn't been part of our conversation.
There have been reports that the players were offered drugs in the casino. Can you confirm or deny those?
My understanding is that a couple of the guys have said, that the drugs are freely available in these casinos. I've never been there, but they said that they were really mindful of it, and they had been drinking, but they were surprised at how the sort of stuff that was going on around there. But that's all I know, really.
Would you be doing any drug testing to confirm whether they were involved in this?
No, I don't need to be doing that. These guys just need to get well.
Keith, do you know what floor the boys were supposed to check into?
No. In their hotel?
Yeah.
Yeah, no. They're on different floors, that's all I know.
Do any of them have any idea why he would have been at that particular hotel?
No, that's a mystery. There doesn't seem to be any reason why he should be there, and I couldn't answer it. I don't know.
So in all of this separation, were they aware that they actually had separated from him, and at what point did they become aware?
The first time they became aware of it was when Danny rang the player. Up until then, because at that time they'd already become fragmented, some of them were in different places in the hotel and in the casino. Some had gone home to bed. And the impression they got was that he was going back to the hotel.
Who did she call?
No, I don't want to sort of...
Can you talk us through the counselling? I know you're having some group sessions. Do you also have one-on-one, and how do you deal with the families? And
yes, so we've got 4 grief counsellors involved. We had grief counselling in LA for the boys when they arrived at the airport. And it's a gentle process. We feel as if the best therapy at the moment is to get them together in a group, and that's happening now, and that's comforting. But there are opportunities, and we've done a bit of this yesterday, and we'll be doing a little bit more with these guys, where they'll be given the opportunity to work independently with the grief counsellors.
This player that Danny contacted, did he make any effort to no, you said rang John, but did he make any effort after that to try and locate him?
Well, they spoke, and he was given every indication that he was okay and that he was on his way back. He wasn't in his room, so he assumed at that point that it will all be okay. And so then the next contact that these guys had, having gone to bed, was in the afternoon when I rang them, and we were asking, "Are you all there?" And so that's quite distressing.
Is there any indication in the CCTV footage that he was acting strangely? We've heard he was acting disorientated, but is there any other indications of how he was behaving on that rooftop?
No. The best vision of it, I haven't seen it, but my understanding is the best vision is on the footpath going into the hotel, and it's probably no more than he looked a little drunk. Is probably how I would describe it. But Danny was just more concerned that he was on his own and didn't. She was asking, "Well, why are you there?" And they're the sorts of questions that a long way away you'd be asking, and so. That's why she rang the alarm to play.
What's the process now to bring John's body home?
So we have to get clearance from the coroner's office in the United States, and Peter Road is over there trying to organise that. And we think that might be 2 or 3 days yet. Once they get clearance, they'll repatriate the body.
US authorities have managed to take statement from just one of the players, we understand, but are looking to take statements from all others. How will the club facilitate that? How do the US authorities take statements now? Well,
I think that because the Victorian police were involved, and Stuart Bailey did a wonderful job for us while he was over there, I imagine they might facilitate it through him, but I guess that'll play out over the next few days.
Keith, sorry, you go.
Who alerted Danny and John's family to his death?
That's a good question. Sorry, I've got a blank. There's been a lot happening. I'm not sure. Danny was in Adelaide. Her father was travelling from overseas and arrived back. I've got a feeling that it was our welfare officer.
The phone call that you made to the players over there, is that about the hardest thing you've had to do?
Certainly, the receiving the news was incredibly tough, and then you have to be very mindful of the fact that they're a long way from home. They're young men, and they were going to receive a very, very nasty piece of news, and so we just broached it the best way we possibly could. We made sure they were all together, and we just tried to do the best we could, but it's pretty tough stuff.
Are you still in contact with Danny and her family, and also John's family?
Spoke to Danny this morning, a bit before the news conference, and she's bearing up pretty well. We are in contact with Shane and Kath, John's parents. I haven't spoken to them personally. We're trying to restrict the amount of phone calls going in that direction, and so Peter Road has been talking to them because he's on the ground and he's got the most up-to-date information.
The player that Danny managed to contact, was he one of the more senior boys? Can we elaborate a little more than...
No, I think it's unfair. You can imagine the sensitivity around that, and I think the important thing is that I don't want the impression out there that these lads just left one of their mates just roam around. They as soon as they became aware, they made contact with him, and unfortunately an accident happened.
Keith, obviously the players are all with each other at the moment. How are they coping? What's the general mood like?
There's still tears. The group that have been based in Australia have now had 2 days of these sort of sessions. We've been with them day and night. with their families and their partners, and so they're pretty well informed. We've got two philosophies basically here. One, we want to stick together. Two, we want to make sure that they're as well informed as anyone in regards to the circumstances. Today was about integrating the boys who'd been away back into that group, and it's awkward. They feel they feel a great deal of emotion, and they didn't quite know how the group was going to receive them. That's been fantastic. I was able to speak to them as a smaller group, just to bring them right up to speed with what we've been saying here, so that everyone's on the same page. And when I left just a little while ago, I felt as if we'd made real progress.
Keith, there's been thousands of messages of love and support coming from around the country and across the world. You must be absolutely overwhelmed by it.
I am overwhelmed, and all I can do is say thank you to everyone, and all of the AFL clubs. I'm getting our members and supporters have been wonderful, as they always are. We're getting calls from other codes. The rugby league codes are ringing in, so it's touched a lot of people, and we feel as if it's just a wonderful reaction to a very sad thing.
Keith, I know it's very raw still, but does this change the landscape of end of season trips forever?
I know every CEO of a footy club dreads this time of year. I'm one of those. I'll be agonising over whether we should have done more. We considered it, whether a chaperone should go. This was a slightly more mature group. We felt as if it would be okay, but I think every club in Australia will be thinking about that issue right now, and I certainly am.
When you say that, it's usually attend in past years.
I think it's on a club by club basis. Interestingly, the Bulldogs were in Vegas at the same time, and they had a chaperone, and that happened to be Stuart Bailey, who has been a wonderful resource to us, and it gives us something to think about, I'm sure.
When you say that all CEOs dread this, what do you mean? Is there some sort of inherent problem, or boys will be boys? What do you mean?
Well, the issue clearly is you go from a really tightly regimented, disciplined environment, and they go on holidays, and they go overseas, and so you worry about them. You worry that, as I do with my kids, are they going to be okay? Are they going to are they going to manage their way through these things? And it's no more of a fear than that. I think it's a legitimate thing that all parents feel.
Last couple of guys.
Are you talking to Collingwood at all? Because they share your grief, don't they?
I've been speaking to Gary Pert each day, and it actually surprised me. I'd forgotten in the moment that John spent 4 or 5 years with Collingwood, and his relationships were very, very strong, very close, and they are hurting. I know that, but I'm talking to Gary every day, and we're working our way through it.
Keith, will the players stay in Adelaide now until the...
These guys will, and I think that there are probably once we get past the funeral, I think that there will be a couple of married couples who'll head away and try and get some sort of a break, but it's very much up in the air. I would have thought.
Thanks, Keith.
Cutaway.
Thank you.
Can we just get some cutaways?